But in my experience, getting the Horween stuff is tough, especially if you want something unique. If you need something made to order that's a unique treasure, you're going to wait a long time. You're going to have to buy a lot, and it's going to be expensive. So the best advice I can give for somebody like me, you're in a smaller shop, or maybe you're just a person doing it for fun, check out Tannery Row, check out Maverick. Somebody reminded me about Buckleguy. Check Buckleguy out also. These three stores have leather waiting for you. Let's get into this. I think one of the things that I get asked about most frequently is where can you get Horween leather? And I hope you guys liked the video I did, the walkthrough Horween that I put up last week. The reason I say that is that because that video has caused a little bit of a ruckus. And I enjoyed doing it, but there's been some unintended side effects of me putting that out into the world. And I wanted to try to clarify some information from what people may have seen in that video that may be interpreted in certain ways. But we're going to talk about today where you can get Horween leather. And I also wanted to talk about how long it takes just to produce a single piece of leather. We'll talk about specifically how to make chrome excel, the processes that they take. And then I'll also talk about shell cordovan, which is a total bear for production time. Let's go into some of the stuff that you may have seen in the Horween walkthrough video that I did a week ago. And some of the feedback that Horween has received, which this is the unintended consequences. They've got some customers that have been waiting for leather for quite a while. And when you see a video like that, me walking through a tannery where they just make leather all day, it looks like they have a lot of leather ready to go. In fact, everything in that video, with the exception of the shipping room, is leather that's in process. So most of that stuff still has weeks to go to be able to be made properly. And in the case of the shell cordovan, you might remember when I called out in that video the stack that said 1,000 butts. That leather is not even close to done. And each of those different piles that you saw of the stacks of 1,000 butts, which just makes me giggle a little bit still, but each of those stacks are curing, and they're curing for different amounts of time. That's part of the process that takes such a long time to do right. When they tan that leather, there's a certain application of oils and greases that are tanned into the leather, and they take a while to cure and to do it the right way. I like to think of it like dry aging a steak or something like that. It's just going to take the amount of time it's going to take to fully lay itself out into the fibers of the shells, and it takes time. Let's talk about how long it takes to make leather, and specifically the chrome excel and the shell cordovan. Before I get to that, I really want to mention this. You can buy the Horween stuff right now. So the only challenge is it might not be exactly a exact color that you want, or the right thickness that you want, or even the right leather tannage that you want. There's two places I suggest that you can get leather right now. The first one I want to mention is the Tannery Row. And a lot of people that are familiar with me are probably familiar with the Tannery Row. They're one of two outlets that Horween sells to for crafters like myself to buy directly from. And I was just on the phone with Tannery Row, and I said, what do you have right now that you suggest? And I took a look at their website. He said, just go on to our website. It's thetanneryrow.com. Every piece of leather or every item that they show is in stock on their website, they have ready to go. So you can get that right away. And there are a couple things that I want to point out on their site. There's a leather that they have that I really like a lot that we used to have like as our standard offerings. Back when we were doing a lot of Louis Little New Yorks, we made a lot of product on a leather called Cavalier Chrome Excel. And Tannery Row has a ton of Cavalier right now in a bunch of really cool colors. And the reason that you see these cooler colors on the Cavalier Chrome Excel is because that's the version of Chrome Excel that Horween has created to allow them to do bright colors. And I'll try to explain this a little bit for you. But the idea here, when you tan Chrome Excel, roughly half of that leather is wax and oil and grease. So if you think about it, you can't really get vivid, bright colors on these leathers that are just so full and so rich with fats. they tend to be a little bit more earth tony and a little bit more muddy in color because there's so much oil. So Horween, what they did, they created a secondary product, a variant on the Chrome Excel, where they cut the amount of the grease and the wax and oil that is tanned into the leather. They cut that way down. So it's a little bit less rich, but what it allowed them to do is to get these vibrant colors. So take a look on the tanneryrow.com. I'm looking at their colors right now. They've got, you can select different thicknesses, the different weights that they have. Right now I'm looking at their 3.5 to 4 ounce. They have London Bust Red, they have Ink, Gulf Green, Carolina Brown, Whiskey, and Plum. I've used on our stuff 2 of those 3 colors as standard items for us. And the 2 colors that I love the Ink. The Ink color is like, it's this really nice blue. The undertones are really, really vibrant and sort of, not aqua, but they're just like this vivid bright blue on the pull-up color for the Ink Cavalier, and the surface is a little bit more navy. We also did the Whiskey Cavalier, which is like a nice yellowy color. It's a little different than the shell color. It's more yellow than the shell whiskey color, but it's a really, really nice shade. Those are the 2 colors from Tannery Row that I have used before, and I love them, and our customers love them. They also have all those other colors, and you'll notice that they're really vibrant colors. So if you want leather right now, check out the Tannery Row. The other place that I highly suggest, and even for me, I would buy this if I wasn't buying it from Horween directly. There's a company called Maverick Leather that I also can't suggest enough. Take a look at Maverick Leather, give them a call, because they have leather ready to go right now, and they're seconds from Horween. And the thing about the seconds from Horween, for me, like, their seconds are totally fine. Like, I think their seconds that I bought seconds from Horween. As long as you know what you're looking at and you can avoid some of these imperfections, it's great. And you just get it for a better price, and it's ready to go right now. So take a look at Maverick. They have all sorts of stuff. They buy every second that Horween makes and they resell it to you. So highly recommend checking out Tannery Row. Highly recommend checking out Maverick because they have leather ready to go right now. So part of the other confusion that I created was the lead times at Horween. If you're trying to buy a custom run of many feet, and we're talking like thousands of feet of leather, many sides of leather, you're probably going to buy from either Tannery Row directly or from Horween directly. These tend to be customers for Horween that are really large. Somebody like Alan Edmonds is buying directly from Horween. To get an accurate lead time quote, you're going to have to contact them directly. And even if you're a small person and a smaller crafter, you're not buying thousands of feet, maybe you're buying 1 or 2 sides, I still suggest messaging Horween directly through their website. They have a contact form on horween.com. And I was just talking to Nick Horween. He suggests people reach out to them right there. It's either going to go right to the main salesperson for Horween Leather, and they can get you information of maybe they're going to send you to Tannery Row or Maverick, or maybe they have some other option to get you leather right away. And if you're looking for a custom makeup, custom color, custom whatever, they can give you an accurate quote as opposed to looking at my video and assuming. Just go ask them directly because there's been a bit of a challenge in the world with COVID and manufacturing. I think they were a little bit behind schedule because of that. But if you're looking for the real information, just go right to them. Even the stuff I'm saying right now, just take my word for it. But like, I would much rather have you go right to the source. And they're encouraging everybody to check out horween.com if you have any questions at all. So let's talk about how long it takes to make some of this stuff. This is a natural Chrome Excel watch strap. And what this is representing in my mind is about 6 to 8 weeks of time. Just this little piece of a watch strap. And the way I think about everything we make is it's just a accumulation of time and a physical representation. All the wallets, there's so many months of tanning for the shell cordovan, and then our crafting time to do this the right way. It's just like a physical manifestation of like all the time that is put into this. So something like the Chrome Excel, this is a leather that is very much not straightforward for any tannery to make, which is why Horween is the only one that's making this. It's made in such a way that in fact, every product that I can think of that they make, it's maybe bad business, but they're thinking of it not from how much money are we going to make on this thing, They're thinking of it from more of like, what's the coolest, most badass leather we can make? And something like Chrome Excel hasn't changed in 100 years. And that's because it's pretty awesome for many things, just straight out of the box, and they don't need to change it. But part of the problem with it is in that tanning process, the steps cannot be compromised. So, for example, there is a process called hot stuffing where the tannery will take a steam heated drum, and then you actually saw this in the walkthrough video. I had all those kettles of waxes and oils. They'll take buckets of those waxes, throw them into this steam heated drum, and pound the leather, pound those materials into the leather. So all that wax and oil just gets pounded right inside of this, which is why it has so much wax in it and oil in it. But the problem with it is once you take it out, that leather is just sopping wet. It's full of wax and oils. It's really greasy. And then they have to dry it. And in order to dry that, because it has so much wax in it, they can't actually put it through the normal drying machines because it actually will clog those machines because of the high oil and wax content. So what they end up doing, and there's a good thing, another good side effect of drying it in this other way, they'll hang dry it. And what the hang drying allows you to do is it allows you to dry that really waxy and oily piece of leather and not clog a machine. But also, I like to think of it like drying your clothes on a clothesline. It kind of shrinks back up. Like your clothes, you might notice, will become a little tighter on your body. And that same thing happens with the Chrome Excel leather when they air dry it. The reason that that's interesting is it actually, because you're bringing all those fibers back together, the leather has a tighter break. So something like a piece of footwear that's cut from the right spot on the leather will have a tighter break on the Chrome Excel because they're spending an extra week to 2 weeks just to air dry that leather. And that's 2 weeks of time. Many tanneries can make 2 batches of leather just in the amount of time that it takes to dry the hot stuffing portion of the Chrome Excel. And that's just one little step for the Chrome Excel leather in specific that kind of represents the whole process for them. There are many steps that are printed onto their procedure. We call them tickets at the tannery. There are steps in there where we say, stop what you're doing and let the leather sit overnight. That is probably counterintuitive to any tannery that's going to watch me say this right now. But Horween takes the time to let it cure properly after each step. And what that does, it depends on what step you're at. But some of the finishing needs a little bit of extra time to cure properly, to get maybe a good adhesion onto the leather. You got to let it sit overnight. If you rush things, they tend to be a little bit worse. So I find that those couple examples to be well representative of the whole philosophy for Horween. Everything they're doing is not necessarily about like how fast you're going to get it or how cheap it's going to be. They're trying to make it the best it can be, and that stuff takes time. And I'm talking about a physical representation of time. This represents like 6 months and 2 weeks of time for me. The shell cordovan takes 6 months to properly produce at Horween. I can't speak for any other tanneries, but the way that they make it, and I think the reason that it stands out when you compare different tannery shell, the reason that the Horween stand out is because they take that extra time. And there's 2 big time sinks that I can explain to you. Shell cordovan is pit tanned using a tree bark blend that they make in-house. They actually buy all these tree barks and they cook them down into, they call it a liquor of different tree barks, and it's a special blend that they've had for a century. But after that, it takes 2 months to tan the leather in the pits. And the shell is so dense, it requires that long of time. You might have seen like Rendenbach does like a leather outsole. That type of veg takes a long time to pit tan also. The shell actually goes in and out of the pit twice in 2 different pit tanning methods. And it's very interesting. But the reason that they have to do that is because they slowly increase the concentration of the tannins in the veg tree bark liquor that they're putting into the pit. And I'll try to say that one more time. The leather goes into the pit, and they, over the course of 2 months, they're slowly increasing the amount of tree barks that are put into that pit. Because if you put too much tree bark in right away, you kind of make it a little bit more fragile. The leather becomes a little bit more papery if you quickly veg tan it. So they're very gently tanning these dense shells over 2 months. That's wild. 2 months of time is crazy for any manufacturer. They're buying all the skins, they're buying all the materials, and they're sitting on it for those 2 months without being able to turn it into money. The other thing that they're doing is those piles of leather that I showed in the walkthrough, the 1,000 butts pile, that has to cure after they hand apply waxes and oils and greases to the shells. And it has to cure for 2 to 3 months. And again, that's the process I was talking about. That is kind of like aging a steak. You really need time for those oils to migrate evenly throughout the shells. And it's perhaps because the shells, again, are very dense. If you don't spend enough time and to let those waxes and oils settle and sort of naturally spread themselves out over the shell, you don't get as nice of a hand feel and as nice of a feel, temper, the firmness or softness. You don't get this nice roundness unless you let it sit there and cure properly. So those are the huge time sinks, and that's 2 steps out of maybe 100 steps. We haven't even talked about finishing or anything like that. So the shell cordovan is a monster of a process, and that's something I'd like to also show at the tannery. I don't know if Skip's going to allow me to show that, but he did mention that he'd like for me to show you guys how they make Chrome Excel, so you get a sense of like how much actual effort and work goes into this stuff, and maybe that would help people understand like why they can't just call up Horween and get leather right now. But again, if you want leather right now, check out Tannery Row and check out Maverick. They got leather from Horween ready to go right now. Let's show you some of the things that we're shipping out today, and then I can get into the chat here. This is, I mentioned that tall Herbie, and this is the whiskey shell. This one also has hidden card slots on the inside. These are not stitched all the way down, so you have this big open compartment. Everybody that's participating in this pre-order sale for the tall Tony here, thank you guys so much. The response that we've had on the tall Tonys here is pretty fantastic. And this is one of the more popular colors from that pre-order that we're doing right now. This is the natural shell cordovan. And again, the difference here between the regular Tony the Ant and the tall Tony is the bill slot in the back goes all the way to the top. We don't have that exterior thumb notch. But I wanted to show you 2 English tan Dublin Capones. This one is our standard one with a silver money clip, where this one has a black clip that I like very much. This is actually the one that we originally prototyped it with, and the one that I'm wearing right now. Look at this too. This is also English tan Dublin on our valet tray. This one's been personalized for FKH, and this is like a perfect piece of shell. This is another one. We're talking about custom hardware. I only have a couple more of these, but this is a gold buckle. Here's another watch strap. This is the Apple Watch band. Check this out though. This is black reverse, but we have a couple different watch straps, again with 2 different hardware colors here. This is green shell. We can also do these pieces of silver hardware. You can sort of immediately see how green it is. What really distinguishes Chrome Excel is this character called the pull-up. So when you flex this leather, you get a little bit of lighter undertones, like you can kind of see here. But see how dark it is on the surface color, but the part where it's going to wrap over the pins is so much more burgundy and cherry. And again, that's the pull-up on the Chrome Excel. It looks like we got one more watch strap here. Amaretto Shell. This is my favorite shell color. So you can see on the outside of this Herbie, we've got some green shell on top of a reverse piece here. And then we sort of have this like neon pink thread. And then the interior, there's some hidden card slots underneath each of the normal. Here's another Herbie that I love. This was a version that we looked at earlier that we're calling the tall Herbie. That is just such a beautiful color. Really nice. But check this out. How we're doing this tall stuff, getting this clean interior. Tall Tonys. This is green shell. Really, really cool color. And the inside here, we got green, but they decided to have the Horween ink stamp in the center. It's garnet. Look how clean this continuous piece of shell is. And if you're not familiar with the garnet shell, this is the most red color of shell cordovan that Horween makes. So we got marbled black shell on the outside. You can see these orangey tan shades that sort of fade in a random way to these more forest green colors. So we got amaretto and it looks like marbled black in the center here. Let's see on the outside, whiskey shell. So here's we got an amaretto shell Tall Tony. This is my favorite shell color. This is our Bugs Moran in like one of the nicest pieces of shell that I've ever touched. The inside of this guy, we have the vertical card slots. Here is, I think this, if I remember correctly, this is cigar shell cordovan. See the color 8 here has a little bit more red burgundy to it, where the cigar is more of like a straight brown. On the inside here, we've got black shell, but the outside's a little different. This is the Amaretto. We can also do color 8, which is this. So this has some of everything. So on the right side, this is the color 8 reverse. That's a little bit more of like an orangey tan. And then the black reverse is this green shade. Timekeeper says, to get my Horween leather from Buckleguy. Yeah, you can get it from Buckleguy too. Thank you for saying that. And I forgot. They also have Horween ready to go. You should check out Buckleguy for sure. I like to repeat this a lot, but leather is a language. And again, like before I worked at a tannery, I thought all leather was one thing, and I thought it was brown. So when my eyes were sort of opened up after working there for so long, I fell in love with it, and I just wanted to share these things that I fell in love with you guys. So I'm so glad that you're able to get something out of that and maybe understand and appreciate this in a new and maybe different way. Mike Cruz says, hey, Phil, curious, the patina on your watch strap looks good. Let's show you that. One day about a year ago, I came into work, and one of my team members here, Lupe, said, hey, Phil, I made you this. And I said, what is that? It's a watch strap in the Dublin belt weight leather that we use. So she took the normal leather that we use on the belts, and she made this for me. Focus. It's wearing in great. Maj7 says, next private stock sale. We don't have a specific date yet, but I'm trying to get it for May. But in my experience, getting the Horween stuff is tough, especially if you want something unique. If you need something made to order that's a unique treasure, you're going to wait a long time. You're going to have to buy a lot, and it's going to be expensive. So the best advice I can give for somebody like me, you're in a smaller shop, or maybe you're just a person doing it for fun, check out Tannery Row, check out Maverick. Somebody reminded me about Buckleguy. Check Buckleguy out also. These 3 stores have leather waiting for you. And I wanted to point out again, the Cavalier that Tannery Row has is really nice. I really, really like the ink Cavalier. I'd like to go, I want to do like a high def video, just do like a 4K video of some of the swatch books that Horween has, and like describe what I'm feeling. That might help some of you that are shopping for leather have a little bit more information. But check out the Cavalier at Tannery Row. I really suggest it. So everybody else, thank you guys so much. I'll be back again soon, and take care.